You know, for most day-to-day Canadians, our big obsession is hockey. It's not pro football. We're fascinated by why the CFL is still operating despite very minimal ratings. Some good players. We take up for the big teams in the NFL like Dallas, the Giants, the Patriots, different sides, and including this guy's former team, Tampa Bay. But when information started to rise to the surface in recent days that this Jerry Glanville clone, or what they call lookalike, was going to quit as head coach of the LA Raiders because of something bad he said, I'm not surprised. I knew this guy was in him. You know, you always have a relative in your family that you get him drunk. He starts like going on racist or homophobic or misogynist rants. That's why you can't invite him any place, because he's an alcoholic deep down. Well, this is what we got going on. Now, according to an article by Associated Press writer Josh Dubrow, which is a very interesting post on CBC as well, talks about Jon Gruden resigning as head coach of the Raiders after numerous emails he sent before being hired in 2018 contained racist, homophobic, and misogynist comments. So I'm going to quote from the article, and it's public domain now, but I just want to break down some of the information and my personal opinion on this whole situation, because as a sports reporter for a number of years, I can tell you up until Tom Brady arrived in Tampa Bay, 95% of the people out there couldn't remember that he led the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl because, you know, he's just a second-level NFL coach that maybe has some charisma, but that's about it. Now, Gruden released a statement Monday night, which is October 11th, stating, I have resigned as head coach of the LA Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of the Raiders, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt anyone. Now, majority of these emails came from the early part of the 2010s. The New York Times reported that Gruden frequently used misogynist and homophobic language directed at Commissioner Roger Goodell and others in the NFL. Now, the NFL Network first reported the development. Now, special teams and assistant head coach Rich Bisaccia will take over on an interim basis. Now, it was a rapid downfall for Gruden, who was in a fourth year of a massive 10-year, $100 million contract he signed with LA that moved to Las Vegas in 2018. It started on Friday when the Wall Street Journal reported that Gruden used a racist term to describe NFL Union Chief DeMaurice Smith in a 2011 email to former Washington executive Bruce Allen. And you know how non-racist Washington Redskins were. Now the football club. Now DeMaurice Smith, he said DeMaurice Smith's lips looked like a Michelin tire and misspelled the word Michelin. Well, if you know Michelin tire, pretty good quality tire, but you know, a lot of black people have big lips, but you know, as a white person saying it, it's none of their business if you have big sort of lips or not. None of your business. Now, the emails were discovered in a workplace misconduct investigation into the Washington football team, but ended up costing Gruden his job when he also showed Gruden denounced the drafting of a gay player, Michael Sam, and the tolerance of players protesting during the player playing the national anthem, among other issues. Now, he eventually apologized for his sensitive remarks about Smith, saying they were made out of frustration over the 2011 lockout. But the latest email sent from between 2011 and 2018, when Gruden was an analyst for ESPN, show his use of derogatory language went well beyond that. Now, an NFL source confirms the accuracy of the emails, and he said they were sent to the Raiders last week. The person spoke on condition of anonymity because the league hasn't made the emails fully public. Now, Raiders owner Mark Davis, Al Davis' son, said last week that the email about Smith was disturbing and not what the Raiders stand for, and said the squad was reviewing the additional emails. Now, the New York Times initially reported that Gruden used a gay slur to insult Goodell and said he was clueless and anti-football. He also said Goodell should not pressure the Rams to draft queers, a reference to Michael Sam, who was the first openly gay player drafted by an NFL team. Now, Michael Sam also played the CFL, didn't work out for the Alouettes, but again, a talented player, just not talented enough to make the NFL. Gay or not, he didn't have the skills to make it the NFL or the CFL. Good person from what I heard, but you got to bring it to the next level. Now, Raiders defensive end Carl Nassib came out as gay in June, ironically, and this is the first openly gay player to appear in an NFL game. In a 2017 email, the Times said Gruden responded to a sexist meme of a female official by saying, "Nice job, Roger." The paper also said Gruden criticized Goodell in the NFL League for trying to reduce concussions and said that Eric Reed, a player who had demonstrated during the playing of the national anthem, should be fired. The newspaper said Gruden also marked an article in 2017 about players calling on Goodell to support their efforts promoting racial equality and criminal justice reform. "He needs to hide his concussion protocol tent," Gruden wrote. "You think this guy might be a Republican? Let's continue. News is not about what is said in our private conversation." Now, Gruden and Allen have a long relationship, having worked together in Oakland and Tampa Bay. The emails between the two and other men, including photos of women wearing gold bikini bottoms, including one photo of two Washington team cheerleaders. I'm thinking topless. Now, Gruden also criticized President Barack Obama during his re-election campaign in 2012, and then Vice President Joe Biden. Now, Smith said earlier Monday that he appreciates that Gruden reached out to him following the initial report, but that the email is evidence that the fight against racism is ongoing. Now, Smith said, "But make no mistake, the news is not about what is said in our private conversation, but what else is said by people who never thought they would be exposed and how they are going to be held to account." Now, Gruden's comments to Allen about Smith came during the 2011 lockout of the players. Gruden told the Wall Street Journal he was angry about the lockout during labor negotiations, and he didn't trust the direction the union was taking. Now, Dubois Smith has lips the size of Michelin, misspelled, tires, not capitalized, so it's a double negative there. Gruden has stated this in an email reviewed by the newspaper. Now, Davis had been trying to hire Gruden almost since he took charge following the death of his father, Al, in 2011. He finally got Gruden in 2008, who agreed to leave ESPN, which is ABC, and returned to the sideline with a 10-year contract. Gruden had allegedly revived the Raiders in his first stint in 98 to 2001, and then bet them in the Super Bowl the following season after he was traded to Tampa Bay for a boatload of draft picks. I wouldn't say rejuvenated. He made them a mediocre team into a playoff team, but the system he had drew a lot of enemies. Now, Gruden has a 117-112 career record, but hasn't won a playoff game since the Super Bowl over the Raiders in the 2002-2003 season. Now, his second tenure with the team started with a pep rally introductory news conference, but provided few reasons for celebration, as Gruden since then has had a 22-31 record, failing to reach a winning record or make the playoffs. Now, the big moves he did, he traded away stars Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper in his first season to start a rebuild, was showed only minor progress. After the Raiders won 412 in his first campaign, with the second campaign actually, with the new squad, Gruden tried to make a push in 2019, the time team's final season in Oakland. Sorry, I meant LA, but I can't keep up. It was Oakland, LA, Oakland, Las Vegas, sorry. By spending heavily in free agency and trading for star receiver Antonio Brown. However, Brown was cut before the season after a series of run-ins with management, and the Raiders won 7-9. The Raiders were 8-8 last season and did get off to a good start of 3-0 this year before losing their past two games. Now, Bisaccia has been a special teams coordinator in the NFL for 19 seasons with the Rangers, Chargers, the Cowboys, and Tampa Bay. He has no head coaching experience, but evaluation will allow other assistants like defensive coordinator Gus Bradley to stay in their current roles. Now, on Tuesday, the Tampa Bay Bucks removed Gruden from the team's Ring of Honor at Raymond James Stadium, and again, he led the Bucks between 2002 to 2008. In addition to winning the title in his first season in Tampa Bay, his record of 57-55 over 7 years makes him the winningest coach in team history. Now, he was fired after the 2008 season and got in the Ring of Honor in December 2017. Now, the Buccaneers have advocated for proposal change in the areas of race, relations, gender equality, diversity, and inclusion for many years, the Bucs said in a one-paragraph statement on Tuesday. Now, while we acknowledge Jon Gruden's contributions on the field, his actions go against our core values as an organization, the club added. Therefore, he will no longer continue to be a member of the Buccaneers' Ring of Honor. Now, it's like this. Personal opinion is one thing, but if the NFL, the CFL, and other pro football leagues, and there's quite a few, even and also college, you have to make it something that's positive for everybody. Sure, Jon Gruden reflects a lot of Republicans, or like what he calls centrist right-wing people towards football. But the idea, if you have somebody in charge, is got to be a cooperative approach. Roger Goodell, I don't like Roger Goodell at all. He's like Gary Bettman, but nobody likes the head of a major sports organization, because if you only have 32 teams or 35 or what it is, you're always thinking that the commissioner works against you. Well, I grew up watching Clarence Campbell and Gary Bettman, but I met Paul Tagliabue, and I asked him once, I said, Paul, your job is, there's no way you can win at this job. And he said, I hear you. He said, how come you're the only member of the media that ever says that? Well, I said, because I don't cover you on a regular basis. I met him at Skydome at an American Bowl, and Tagliabue told me, he said, we got major problems we're trying to work on, and this was in 1995? So you can imagine in 2021, we got concussion issues, where we got problems how the people are being treated once they retire, the policies, also the not reaching out to youth football like they should. There's a lot of good people in NFL football, but Jon Gruden seems to be a person of 20 years ago or 30 years ago. In 2021, you can't think like 1990 anymore. It's not going to work, because Donald Trump's popularity, and I don't like Donald Trump, but he played upon that. He played on that 1980s and 1990s anything goes mentality, and he suckered a lot of voters because he voted for him. Oh, he's one of us. He speaks for us. Someone went to my podcast channel in recent hours and say the reason why I don't like you putting down Donald Trump because Bobby Orr supported him is because he always speaks. He speaks to his mind and sticks to it. Yeah, there's only one side. You got to be cooperative approach with a major sports team. Now, you're going to notice on this, I can make this, there will be no comments allowed on this podcast. This is just a repetition of what was being presented, and I let you make the decision. But for me, as a sports reporter for 38 years, that I've covered everything in pro sports that's been done since the early 1980s, football still needs change. When a guy doesn't want to stand for the anthem, he's made to be a scapegoat and a villain. Just an anthem. I mean, people didn't die for the anthem when they were going up the hill. You didn't hear Star Spangled Banner. It's good that you have both sides, right? If he doesn't want to stand, just don't leave him stand. You can't make 40% of the population do what 60% want to do. And if you think that's disrespectful, talk to an American how do you think about Canadians on a regular basis. We're not allowed to have an opinion. That's why I'm going to have to stop comments on my podcast, because most of the shit comments I get is from the Americans, because they don't want Canadians talking about the Americans. Oh, you have no right. Listen, if your downstairs apartment is angry and there's murders all the time and the guy above calls the cops, ain't our fault, is it? So listen to the upstairs apartment. Jon Gruden should never get a job in football again. Maybe as towel boy. I've never liked Jon Gruden because, just like Jerry Glanville, I can only take so much with people like that. Because what's going on in the background? This ain't John Madden here. This is not Tom Landry. Shula as well. The worst I heard about Don Shula is when his wife said, if I died before him, he said, he'd probably wait to bury me so he could go to training camp. That's the type of coach you want. What would Vince Lombardi say about Jon Gruden? You know what he'd say? You're not working for me. Because Vince wants winners, not pretend winners like Jon Gruden. So ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing, give us a like or subscribe, but you're not allowed to comment on this one. Have a good day. Bye.